Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where my Mastermind Creations Reformatted collection, it actually took a few tries for me to get that right, is, I don't want to say complete, because it's not complete, and it's never going to be complete, because I don't have an interest in getting all of the figures in the Reformatted line, but it is getting closer to where I want it to be, because I managed to get my hands on Titanika, and she is incredibly difficult to track down, even on eBay. The handful of times that I've, for the past several years, I've been trying to get my hands on her, and since she sold out, the only time I've ever seen her listed on eBay, I think it's been 3 or 4 times over the past several years, and each of those times she was between $250 to $300, sometimes more, and no thank you. So I finally managed to get my hands on Titanika, not at eBay scalper prices. I still ended up paying more than the initial retail release price, but that was pretty much entirely due to shipping from Europe, because I got her from a site called Action Figurin 24. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. It's based out of Germany. I don't quite know what the accent would have me pronounce it as, but I'm going to include a link down below to the product page for this figure from Action Figurin 24 in case anyone else is looking for a Titanika. As far as I know, they still have more figures in stock. And the actual, the price of the figure is more or less what she released for. It's just, it's 30, 40, 50 bucks in shipping because it's coming from Germany, which stinks. But it's still better than paying way too much money on eBay. With all that boring monetary talk out of the way, yes, Titanika, I got Titanika, I'm so happy. I have been wanting Titanika for a while, as I said, and as I've been saying, and will continue to say, I do have a bit of a soft spot for figures that are, female characters that aren't overtly feminine in the way they're depicted, because I just always appreciate when the Ladybots get more representation as toys and also aren't, made to look like something I'd be embarrassed to have someone see on my shelf. Yes, I know I'm talking about toys, but I'm not embarrassed for people to come to my house and see toys on my shelf. I would be embarrassed to have someone come to my house and see some kind of sexual Robo-Barbie on my shelf. But that's neither here nor there. We are talking about Titanika, who is supposed to be Strika. I don't know offhand if this is meant to be Beast Machine Strika or IDW Strika. I know Beast Machine Strika does not really look like this, especially in robot mode, but I don't know how interpretive it all is. I don't know if Strika is even in IDW. All I know is Titanika is meant to be Strika, and she is awesome and glorious, and I'm very glad I got this figure. And I don't mind at all that I also have Dikamis, which is basically the same mold with some pretty extensive remolding and retooling and obviously recoloring. Titanika is this big, honkin' 6-wheeled armored vehicle thing that just looks great. There are some things that I will nitpick as we're going around this thing, but it's for the most part, it's, Mastermind Creations. It's the same deal. It looks great, very sturdy, very nice plastic, good paint all around. This thing is a little bit on the loose side. I'm probably going to go in with some floor polish and tighten these little kneecap things up. I probably should do that on Dikamis too. But yeah, the look is great. It looks like this big, imposing armored vehicle that could just punch through a wall like nobody's business, but it also has a bunch of guns. And I just love this. And around the back, it's a little bit strange how you've got this kind of gap going back here and the little spike balls. And I don't really know, but what it is, it works just fine. Underneath, it's surprisingly not that much like there's a robot under there. It's the Dikamis mold, so it's that whole deal. And it looks great. I really like the colors here, too. Where you've got this really dark... It's it's purple, and it's really dark purple, but it's almost leaning more towards burgundy. Like they took burgundy and mixed that with blue to make this purple, which is nice. The one downside to that is this dark red up here does kind of get lost a little bit in that dark purple. On camera, it actually seems to separate out pretty nicely. In person, it can kind of bleed together a little bit. But the upside to that is this gold, the light purple, the silver, like every other color on this thing other than that red pops so hard against that dark purple, and it's really nice. The overall shape is very similar to Dicamus, which again we'll see when we do a comparison. And you've got, like, you can peg these in to give it like a giant bumper, but for now we will take these off and look at those later. Got the big guns up here that you can also leave on or take off. I'm just going to take them off for the sake of looking at the vehicle mode without all of the extra stuff kind of getting in the way. So we can just look at the flat, non-altered vehicle mode, just for, the sake of looking at it without all that stuff. And it still looks like a big, nasty vehicle that could punch through a wall without any problem. And you get a little bit more color that shows up in the front here because of the removal of these little bits here. And I'm not super into the light blue. Much like with Dicamus, it just doesn't... It's like this color that only pops up in this one spot and it doesn't really work with the colors that are here. Like, I guess they're supposed to be headlights, but that really light sky blue just doesn't really work that well with the purple and gold color scheme that's going here. Like, the purple and gold, even with the silver and lighter purple and all that, looks great, but that blue just, not so much. You can see there is some nice detailing in there. It's all line work, but it does look nice. There's some going all the way across the front there. Then there are, again, those red bits that does kind of bleed in a little bit, but it's fine. Very, very nice chunky tires and lighter purple rims that do sort of complement the darker purple. And then there's even like a little bit of light gold painted in there, which it's a nice detail, though the gold doesn't quite stand out very well with the light purple, but I'll still take it. And I like the six-wheeled look too. The one issue I have with the six-wheeled look on Titanika, though, is the separation between the wheels. It's not like, something that drives me nuts or anything like that, but it does bug me a little bit how the two wheels are set a little bit closer together on, in the front here, and they're just not evenly spaced. Bugs me just a little bit that these two wheels, there's like less of a separation between these two wheels as there are between these two in the back. It kind of makes the rear wheels look like they're just set back further for some reason. I don't know. Not sure if that could have been remedied with any kind of molding stuff. Probably not, but it just is a little bit like in how these aren't evenly spaced. Not a huge deal, but it's a thing. I still dig the six-wheeled look, though. And I also like how you've got this little hint of gold right up here, which, spoilers, I guess, for this figure that we all probably are pretty familiar with at this point, but the bottom of the heel or foot, depending on how you want to transform the figure, has this nice gold on it, which actually does help set it apart a little bit and just add some nice color detail to the side of the vehicle mode. Dicamus doesn't have that. Then you've got the rear bumper light things back here, which... nice paint going around here. That looks good. I like how you've got the dark purple bits inside of the gold so that it brings out those details. It's just, it's a little plain when you get around here. It's more of that dark purple and like light purple, and it kind of makes it a little more obvious that things right around here aren't painted. Not a huge deal, but yeah, it's a thing. And then up here, you've got these big gold intake things that look really nice and have this dark purple in there, and the detailing is good. You can almost see like what could be venting detail in there too. Titanika overall, much better paint, much more paint it feels like than Dicamus. But with that said, I feel like she could use a little bit more in places. Not saying she needs it, but I kind of want to go in here and do a little bit more myself, Overall, still great, solid vehicle mode. And I mean, it's, Mastermind Creations Reformatted, so of course it is. And we're just going to move on to the size comparisons before I go off on too big a tangent for how much I love Mastermind Creations Reformatted stuff. So, here she is with a Standard Deluxe, and to nobody's surprise, I'm sure, she is definitely bigger than a Standard Deluxe. Here she is with Mastermind Creations Nitro. It's the Reformatted line's other Ladybot. Here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Coulter, or IDW Tarn, and I think it's interesting how they are both bulky vehicles, both purple vehicles, but she actually, despite the fact that he's got the giant gun, I don't know, she kind of feels a little more menacing. I think it's because she just looks physically larger and darker, a little more imposing, I think. That's how it looks to me anyway. Here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Dicamus, her mold buddy. Move her over just a bit, move him in just a bit, and yeah, there you can see they're very, very similar, but there's actually a fair bit of difference going on here. Like these wheel well bits are the same, but different colors. The actual hoods are handled a little bit differently. There's some similarities, like down here. I'll bring them a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. Like down at the very bottom, like the front bumper section here, it's the same, but then as you go up, it does change a little bit. The hood section, totally different. The, I guess, windshields are different. The bits on the back up here are different. And of course, you've got the four-wheeled look for Dicamus, the six-wheeled look for Titanika, and even like the rims themselves. Dicamus has the kind of flat gray, more typical looking rims that kind of go inside the tire, whereas Titanika has the more bulbous, like sticking out ones that don't have as much detail in terms of sculpting, but does have more of a color differential and paint going on. And then along the back, they're pretty much the same, but it is worth also mentioning Dicamus here has repro labels on him, so that will also affect the look just a bit. Yes, there you have the two of them together, and yeah, it's the same mold overall, same skeleton and all that, but it's a great figure regardless, and Titanika actually does enough different with it that it doesn't bother me at all. Here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Commodus, or IDW Turmoil, aka, as I have dubbed him, Dark Tank. And here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Spartan, aka IDW Impactor, aka the Duck Tank. Alright, I think that's about all the size comparisons I have in me for right now, so let us get to that robot mode, and the transformation for Titanika is pretty much, well, not pretty much, it is exactly the same as the transformation for Dicamus, but we're still going to go through it. And there we have Mastermind Creations Reformatted Titanika in her robot mode, and I really love this. It's great. I love it for the same reasons that I love Dicamus. I love how it's not kind of standard humanoid form that so many other Transformers figures are. It's bigger, it's beefier, it's, more Incredible Hulkish. This is something that you would not want to tangle with. And as I said before at the beginning of the video, I really like how this is so different from a typical lady Transformer, because she's not that kind of overly cringy looking, over-sexualized shape. She's just a big burly bot that's a lady. It's great. It's something that I wish happened more often with this stuff. But anyway, this robot mode looks fantastic, and all of the could use a little paint maybe here and there gripes that I had with the car mode are pretty much non-existent in the robot mode. I mean, I still think that, a little bit extra detail here and there could absolutely enhance things even further, but nothing about this screams it needs more paint to me, because there's a lot of color separation here that is great. You've got the gold accents all over the place. You've got the dark purple that's kind of mixed throughout, but also has accents on it and also is accents in a few places, so that mixes things up nicely. There's the dark gray for the elbow joints, and you can kind of see just behind the little kneecaps there, the little knee joints. And also there's a little bit of dark gray in the chest, which we'll see when we're looking at the details a little bit more. There's some silver here and there. There's the lighter purple in a few places. It just looks great. I've said it before, but I love the silhouette on this figure. It's fantastic. And the color breakup is also fantastic. Dicammus was a great figure, but I did have those issues with him where he just kind of felt unpainted in a few places. And that has since been rendered a non-issue, basically, because of the repro labels that I have for him. But Titanika, I don't feel like, oh, I need to hunt down a repro label set for her. I'm still probably going to do some touching up here and there just because eventually, when I find the time, which who knows when that'll be, but it's not like Dicammus where it was just like, oh geez, this really needs something. This really doesn't need anything. This is great just as it is, and I love it, and it is good. Now, to look at some of the details, she's got the big chunkin' feet, which are great, and some nice heels as well. And she can do the same thing that Dicammus does, where you can rotate the lower leg around if you wanted to, say, give her like a cleaner lower leg. So like if you wanted to turn this around so that the wheels are... I need to tighten that. If you wanted to turn this around so that the wheels are pointed towards the back and kind of give her that look, you can. And that does still work. That's not terrible. But given how chunky she is, I definitely feel like she pulls off the chunky wheels facing forward look better than the hide the wheels look. Also, I just like how that breaks up the color in the legs more. It's not just like dark purple. It's not just like dark purple from the foot up to the knee. Instead, you've got some gold, you've got some visible light purple, you've got the black, and then you've got the gold. It breaks it up even better in my mind. But anyway, you've got the gold and dark purple for the kneecaps, which also looks good, and I like how they left the dark purple unpainted, or maybe it was painted because this is gold plastic, I don't really know, but I like how they did that and had the dark purple accents. And the dark gray there, the light purple for the thighs, and these are, taken on their own, these sections right here do come off as unpainted, but only really when in comparison to the rest of the figure. And then you got the gold pods on the hips, I guess. The studs picked out in gold. There are some more studs that could be picked out. I might do that myself. I don't know. But still, it adds some color, adds some visual interest. Same thing up in the midriff here, where you've got a little bit of the gold with the light purple. Though, as with the rims here, the gold doesn't show up as well in the light purple. It's just because it pops super hard on the dark purple. Similarly, the gray here in the midsection, it's there. It's nice. I like that detail's there. But it doesn't stand out as much against the dark purple. Conversely, the silver in the chest there, that pops really nicely in that dark purple. And the black right on the edges of the chest, it doesn't necessarily pop with the dark purple, but it's the kind of detail that I actually really appreciate being there, because it doesn't blend into the dark purple, but it doesn't stand out either. It just kind of sits there almost like a subconscious thing that like your brain is telling you, okay, there's nothing unpainted over in that section, but it doesn't stand out like the silver does. And you can also see there's some nice venting details on the sides there that I think, might look good if I did a little paint. On the shoulders, that's where the whole roof of the car goes, and the little red bits up there. And again, in the lighting here on camera, it actually separates pretty nicely. In hand, it blends together a little bit, but as with the car mode, not really a huge deal. And the rest of the breakup going on here is just kind of like makes it a non-issue, really. Like this gold right here on the little rotatey bits. That's right where the joint is for the shoulder to spin, so that works great. And getting these out of the way, you can see there's some of that light purple in the venting right around her head, which is also great, and you get a little bit of that gold plastic back there if you want to reveal that detail as well. Personally, I prefer to have her shoulders, shoulder pauldrons in, because it just kind of changes up her silhouette a little more in contrast to Dicammus. which we will see when we do the comparison between the two in robot mode. But yeah, you got options, and she looks great either way. And the arms have some nice tech detailing, especially around like the inner elbow section there. That looks great. Some nice tech detailing in there. I love these gauntlet things. This is actually one of my favorite features on this figure. It's just these, it's almost like robotic plate mail in gauntlet form for her, and it just looks great. I don't know how else to say it. It looks cool. I really like this detail, and I feel like it could maybe use a little bit more paint, but at the same time, not really, because this does a lot right up here. That definitely helps. And then she has the the same kinds of hands as Dicamous, where it's like the kind of spiked ball that unfurls to show the fingers. But here, the color's actually different. You've got the dark purple for the little ball, which is actually a slightly darker purple than anywhere else on the figure. I don't quite know why that is. Maybe it's got something to do with how the plastic is made, because like the inside of the palm, you can see that's the same color purple as the rest of the figure. It's just that little outer shell that's darker purple. I don't really know what's the deal is there, but I like that there's a color difference here, because now it kind of looks like she has fingerless gloves on, which is cool. And again, adds more visual interest to the robot mode when you're looking at it without any kind of nitpicky close-ups, I guess, is the phrase I'm going to go with. And that head is, from what I've seen, that is a very Strika head, and it's great. And it's got that kind of angry frog mouth, the obvious angry eyes, the little spiky points coming up around the edges of the eyes, the kind of gas mask cheek effect going on there. And it all kind of culminates in this weird kind of like sticky outy, like a fanned out hair bun. There's some kind of hair thing that is like, I've seen it before in the real world with, human people, and I don't know what it's called, but it kind of calls to mind that hairstyle. And it works for her. There's a lot of nice color in the face with that silver, but then some of the dark purple in the lips there, or mouth. I don't know if that's actually a mouth or if it's a faceplate. You've got the dark purple, you've got some black in there, and again, the silver, the gold, some red, very vibrant red for the eyes that blends in a little bit with the dark that's going around it, but it still shimmers really nicely when the light catches it just right. All the facial details just pop really nicely with that silver. It's a great head sculpt. It's a great design. It's a great implementation. And around the back, there's definitely some kibble going on there in terms of the wheels, but it's not that bad, and it doesn't get in the way that much. I mean, it does get in the way of the in and out movement of the arms, especially if you want to keep the shoulder pauldrons kind of curled up like that, but does not bother me in the slightest. What does bother me is these things. They're way too easy to knock out of place, so I'm definitely going to want to go in there and tighten those up. Anyway, let's look at her other stuff real quick. And I know don't normally cover accessories, but these kind of feel integral to the vehicle mode, so I definitely want to cover them here. She has the same exact kind of canister things that Camus has. You can see the molding it's like identical, but his is just like plain green plastic. Hers is this really nice silver and gold combination, and I really dig that. This, I feel like I need to go in and paint, do some panel lining on maybe. This, I think it's fine just as is, so yeah. Then we come to her rifle, which is very similar to Dicamous' rifle with some very minor changes. The detailing's all there, but it is primarily silver with just the gold tip, but it's amazing how far that goes. Just having that little bit of color right at the end there. And the molding is very nice. It actually shows up pretty nicely with the silver. Bringing in Dicamous' gun, which is covered in repro labels, so it definitely looks better, because this gun without the repro labels, the only color it has is the orange stripes there and the silver on the back there, which is fine, but looks rather plain. Like, if you look at them, the back ends of the rifles are almost identical. The The barrels are where it's different. Dicamys has more of like a machine gun, sniper rifle kind of barrel looking to it, and Titanika has more of a laser cannon. And I mean, this looks great now that it's got the stickers on it, but I think overall I actually kind of prefer this look. And then, of course, you can do the thing where you attach the canister to the bottom to give it like almost like a grenade launcher kind of look, which Dicamys' rifle can also do, and that's definitely what I do for Dicamys' rifle, and I feel like it's worthwhile doing it for hers too. And I'm pretty sure, I haven't actually tried this, but they're the same thing, so I'm sure that, yeah, you can do that if you want. It's a little bit loose, though. And will this work? It's a bit tighter here. Okay, so the tolerances are slightly different, but you can mix and match the bits if you wanted to. And also, like Dicamys, you can peg these into the various other parts on the shoulders and whatnot that have pegs, or peg holes rather. So if you bring these out, you can see there are pegs up in here, so you can peg the little bits up there if you want to give her shoulder launchers, if that's something that you wanted to do. I'm not super fond of it. The one thing to mention, because I actually didn't realize until just now, Titanika does not have a little peg hole on the inside of the shoulder pauldron, whereas Dicamys does have a peg hole there. So with Dicamys, you can peg the canisters, or whatever you want to call them, into the shoulders up there, but Titanika cannot do that because she does not have that peg hole. Also, Dicamys has peg holes on his forearm guards, which you can see there, so you could attach them there. You can't do that for Titanika because she has the smooth arm guards. She does not have the peg holes, so you can't really do that. Anyway, I'm going to arm her up the way that I intend to keep her armed up, and that is with the two big old guns that will slot into her hand. You can kind of see the little slot there, and it just slides in. And it works better when the when the pauldron or arm guard isn't in the way. So that slides in, and then you can just close up her hand, close up her thumb, and now she's holding her big gun, and that looks great. All right, let's get Titanika back here now that she's all armed up, so that we can do our... There we go. So that we can do our size comparisons. I try to keep all these videos short, but they end up running long because of all the size comparisons. Also, I'm a bit wordy. Anyway, here she is with a Standard Deluxe, and she's way bigger than a Standard Deluxe, and I am okay with that. The car looked like something that could punch through a building without slowing down. She looks like a robot that could punch through a building without slowing down. Here she is with Reformatted Nitro, for another not blatant lady in general and also in the Reformatted line, and they also look pretty cool. Here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Coulter, or IDW Tarn, who's actually a little bit taller than she is. And here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Dicamys, so you can see how she looks like with her mold buddy, and there are definitely elements to the two of these that make them seem like they are from the same mold, but there are also a lot of elements to it that make them look very distinct from one another. And here we have Titanika with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Commodus, or IDW Turmoil. And yet again, it's a very imposing duo here. And here she is with the duck tank. You know, I do crack jokes with the duck tank a lot. It has become kind of a running gag because people got upset that I saw a duck bill in Spartan's alt mode, which, I mean, it's there. There's no denying that it's there. But just to say, again, because sometimes I feel like it's worth reiterating, I actually really, really like Spartan as a figure. So, giving him his due, giving him the respect that he does really deserve, because this is a really good figure. Here she is with Mastermind Creations Reformatted Spartan. But the alt mode's not, you know, I'm not super into the alt mode, hence the whole duck tank thing. But really, though, it's even though I joke, it is a really, really good figure. And, you know, just because, let's actually bring the entire crew in here. do what I can to try and bring the entire crew in here anyway. So after a little finagling, there we go. There we have the group shot with all of the Mastermind Creations figures that I currently own, plus the deluxe. Okay, time to wrap this up because this has gone on way too long. I'm looking at, like, the raw footage recording for this thing is almost an hour and 15 minutes already. So yeah, let's wrap this up. That has been Mastermind Creations Reformatted Titanika, and she is a great figure. If you just want the mold, then I would absolutely recommend Dikamis because he's much easier to find and really solid on his own. That said, if you want Titanika, if you want a representation of Strika, if you want more Ladybots in your collection that are really awesome looking, if you want a really good figure and you don't mind having the mold twice, if you want something that is a bit different, then, by all means, try and track down Titanika. As I said, I'm going to include a link in the video description for the product page for this from Action Figurin 24. Again, not sure if I'm mispronouncing that. I probably am. But as of this recording, I think they still have them in stock. So I will include the link. If they're sold out, I'm sorry, but I have no idea when you all might be watching this, and I have no idea when they might sell out. Chatter on the TFW boards last I saw was that Mastermind Creations was basically like, yeah, no, we're not going to be reissuing Titanika. But when I saw that, it's kind of like, okay, if she's not getting any kind of re-release, then I better snap up what I can find. And that was the one store link that I could find that actually still had her in stock. Anyway, that has been my look at Mastermind Creations Reformatted Titanika, and she is absolutely glorious. Just like Spartan and Commodus, I really don't mind owning the same mold twice because they did so much different with each version that it's totally fine. They completely come off as separate characters, and they're great figures in their own right. Now I just need to get my hands on their Overlord. Carnifex is the name of that one. And I think that's it for the MMC stuff that I'm desperately wanting to get my hands on. I do kind of want their Whirl, who, like Dikamis, desperately needs color on him. But I feel like if I went in there with, some paint and some repro labels and stuff like that, he'd end up pretty awesome. So that's another thing I'm thinking about. But anyway, tried to end this video twice now. So that is more than enough about what I think of Titanika here. What do you all think? Is this a figure that you had no interest in and still have no interest in? Do you prefer Titanika over Dikamis, or do you prefer Dikamis over Titanika? Is this a figure that you've been trying to track down yourself and just haven't been able to find anywhere, or haven't been able to find for the right price? And I'm curious if any of you have any theories as to why she would only be a little bit more expensive than Dikamis, when Dikamis had like the alternate head and like one less gun, but so much less paint, and it's weird. I don't really understand that. Some of you probably know how toy production works, like economically, better than I do. But whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like, subscribe, or if you're feeling generous, you could buy me a coffee. Any of those things would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.